In this chapter, I would like to revisit and complete my interpretation of the 4 paintings and the story of the flightless bird. In the second chapter, we looked at 4 paintings that stood out from all the others due to their reference to the Earth Tree. We arranged these 4 paintings according to the size of the reference. We then looked at the thematic content of the paintings, their titles and their item rewards, and determined that the 4 paintings tell the story of the player. It goes as follows. The prophecy foretells the resurrection of Godwyn. Upon his resurrection, he has lost all his memories. Instinctively, he travels to the Earth Tree, and he sets the Earth Tree on fire, thus fulfilling the prophecy. In addition, we found that the title of the 4th painting, Flightless Bird, refers to the dying warhawk in the warhawk ashes from the first painting. This connection tells the story of Godwyn's escape. It is actually possible to add the 2 remaining paintings, Resurrection and Homing Instinct, to the story of the escape and the flightless bird. Let's take another closer look at the paintings. We have already drawn 2 different interpretations from the painting Flightless Bird. On the one hand, it is about the prophecy of the burning of the Earth Tree, and on the other hand, it is about the dying, flightless bird gazing at Stormvale. The other paintings also contain 2 possible interpretations. From the painting Homing Instinct, we have taken the theme of an instinctive journey to the Earth Tree. This interpretation arose from the Earth Tree depicted, the Church of Pilgrimage with a Radagon statue, and a fitting reference from Godric, who mentions a journey home to the Earth Tree. However, the painting also contains a second possible interpretation. The description of the item reward incantation scarab says, as a scarab approaches death, it abandons its rolled treasure and stretches its wings wide for a long journey to its home nest. The painting depicts gravestones in Limgrave. These 2 pieces of information point to a journey to Limgrave when death is near. In addition, we have the color combination of black, turquoise and gold when we add the incantation scarab. We associated this color combination in Chapter 5 with Godwyn's trail, which leads from Lanedale to Stormvale and represents Godwyn's struggle with death. Instinctive travel also fits with the events. As a ghoul, Godwyn is dependent on guidance, because in the putrid corpse ashes it says, though their movements are dull and confused. He receives the necessary guidance from the ringing of the church bell in Stormvale. Therefore, the painting can also be interpreted in line with the story of the flightless bird. Next, let's take another look at the painting Resurrection. Last time, we took the theme of resurrection and memory loss from this painting. We took this from the description of the item reward. The juvenile scholar robe says, rebirth is as sleep to them, and with each awakening, memory fades into oblivion. For the first interpretation, we referred to the line, and with each awakening, memory fades into oblivion. The first part of the line, however, can be used to interpret the painting in line with the story of the flightless bird. The first part says, rebirth is as sleep to them. In the Chapel of Anticipation, Godwyn fell into a deep slumber instead of being immediately reborn. The dominant color purple in the painting also fits this interpretation. So here too we have a second interpretation that fits the story of the flightless bird. Ultimately, the 4 paintings tell the following story. The flightless bird, Godwyn, gazing at Stormvale, dies at the Earth Tree. Instinctively, he travels to Stormvale, fighting death. Upon arrival, he falls into a deep slumber during his rebirth. The prophecy foretells Godwyn's resurrection. When he woke up, he had lost all his memories. He instinctively travels to the Earth Tree, and he sets the Earth Tree on fire and fulfills the prophecy. The story of the flightless bird is about Godwyn's survival in the Night of the Black Knives. We have so far found 2 bird-related items that reference this story. The warhawk ashes are central to the story of the flightless bird. We also interpreted the winged crystal tear in Chapter 5 as a reference to the story of the flightless bird. Are there possibly more bird-related items that serve as references? Near the location shown in the painting Flightless Bird, you will find the item Four-toed Fowlfoot on the path. Although various birds dropped this item in Elden Ring, it has only been placed separately here, only at this location. This bird-related item may also have a connection to the story of the flightless bird. The description reads, "Foot of a four-toed fowl. In the lands between, having 3 digits is seen as a bad omen. As such, the rarer four-toed fowls is a gift of great luck indeed." The description states that the number 4 is a sign of great luck. In this context, let's take another look at the clues that led us to discover that Godwyn survived. The 4 paintings contained the story of the flightless bird and Godwyn's survival. When comparing the Chapel of Anticipation with the Wandering Mausoleums, it was the headless trolls at the 4 belfries, along with the other characteristics of the Wandering Mausoleums, that led us to believe that Godwyn's resurrection was planned. The putrid corpse ashes, which led us to believe that Godwyn was summoned by Rykard as a ghoul, contain exactly 4 putrid corpses. And in the end, it was the 4 scorpion charms that confirmed our entire idea of Godwyn's survival and which could be associated with the 4 characters Godwyn, Ranni, Rykard and Melina and their roles in the Night of the Black Knives. According to the four-toed Fowlfoot, the number 4 represents good luck, so it's not surprising that the clues to Godwyn's survival are coded with the number 4. This also connects the four-toed Fowlfoot to the story of Godwyn's survival and the flightless bird. It is clearly no coincidence that the four-toed Fowlfoot is located near the depicted location in the painting Flightless Bird, nowhere else in the entire lands between. In addition to the four-toed Fowlfoot, there's also the gold pickled Fowlfoot and the silver pickled Fowlfoot. All of the fowl feet are bird-related items with a connection to the number 4 and could possibly be placed as references to the flightless bird. We find a gold pickled Fowlfoot below a crucified martyr who is looking directly toward the Chapel of Anticipation. Could this also be a reference to Godwyn the Golden and the flightless bird who's gazing at Stormvale? In Stormvale itself, we also find a gold pickled Fowlfoot right next to an oversized banner with a golden lineage motif. Here too, it could possibly be an allusion to the connection to the golden lineage. Shortly before we look at the Chapel of Anticipation in Stormvale, a silver pickled Fowlfoot is placed. Is this another reference to Godwyn the Tarnished, who awakens in the Chapel of Anticipation? Another place is directly behind the Fringe Folk hero's grave, at the waterfall. On the one hand, a gold pickled Fowlfoot is placed below the waterfall with 3 those who live in death. On the other hand, we have a silver pickled Fowlfoot hidden above the waterfall with a small camp. Could it be that these 2 allude to Godwyn the Golden and his death, as well as Godwyn the Tarnished and his survival? I have looked at all the locations in the game and am firmly convinced that we can associate the golden pickled Fowlfoot with Godwyn the Golden and the silver pickled Fowlfoot with Godwyn the Tarnished. I hope to have convinced you of this by the end of the video. It is no coincidence that the gold pickled Fowlfoot can be found at the bottom of the waterfall and the silver pickled Fowlfoot above it. In Asian cultures in particular, waterfalls symbolize spiritual cleansing, renewal, and transformation. We can see that this symbolic meaning is indeed part of the world of Elden Ring in the character Dryleaf Dane. Near the Recluse's River upstream, in the Lands of Shadow, we find the message, "I shall find my center under the cascading waters." At a nearby waterfall, we find Dryleaf Dane's clothes next to a corpse that appears to be meditating. At the end of Dryleaf Dane's quest, we also receive the item Dane's Footwork. It says, he acquired these skills by training with the aid of a waterfall, letting the water beat his body and throwing himself into its basin. I think it's clear that the symbolic meaning of a waterfall for spiritual cleansing, renewal and transformation is indeed present in Elden Ring. Accordingly, we can assume that the two pickled fowl feet behind the fringed folk hero's grave symbolized the spiritual cleansing, renewal, and transformation of Godwyn the Golden to Godwyn the Tarnished. However, there is another place containing a pickled fowl foot that really convinced me of this idea. I had actually planned to discuss this in a later chapter, but I think it will make it clear that these interpretations were not arbitrary. I always looked at much more in the game than what I present in my videos. I usually look at every single location of an item in the game and try to find similarities. The place I want to show you is the Sage's Cave. Have you, like me, entered the Sage's Cave and been amazed at the incredible number of chests you find there? When you open them, it's even stranger to find such unremarkable and useless items inside. Today, I want to make one thing clear. The placement of almost all items in the game is not random. Almost all of them serve as references to specific events or relationships. Ultimately, it's not about the items themselves. It's the associations Miyazaki uses to tell stories. The puzzle is to figure out which association are correct and how to interpret them in the end. The entire Sage's Cave tells a story with everything that can be found there. I won't give you the complete interpretation in this video, but instead we will work it out together step by step. Let's take a look at what items we find in the chests. The story told by the Sage's Cave begins inside. The Black Knife Assassin is associated with the Knight of the Black Knives and provides us with a clue to the relevant context. We cannot yet fully interpret the Necromancer Garrus and the two chests in front of his cave, as these refer to characters I have not yet discussed in detail. We note that the Knight of the Black Knives was our first association in the cave and serves as context. Next come the two chests with the Raptor Talons and 4 Dragonwound Grease. The Raptor Talons are bird-related weapons. The 4 Dragonwound Grease are dragon-related items. It may be a coincidence, but if you carry the Raptor Talons, they have exactly 4 blades, and we also receive exactly 4 Dragonwound Grease. So here we associated a bird and a dragon with the number 4. Based on this, these two items can be interpreted as a reference to the story of the flightless bird and the ancient dragon 46, which tells of Godwyn's survival in the Night of the Black Knives. Directly opposite, between 2 crystal cave moss, we find a chest with 10 golden great arrows. These say, carved great arrows made together with the Earth Tree great bow. Deals holy damage, imbued with an Oath of Sworn incantation, which boosts the attack and defense of the archer and their nearby allies. The 2 crystal cave mosses, together with the golden great arrows, can be associated with the Earth Tree, the Golden Order, and the Elden Beast. Taken together, these items tell the story of the dying and fleeing flightless bird Godwyn, the self-sacrificing ancient dragon 46, and the Elden Beast and the Golden Order as their opposing enemy. The next chest is behind an illusion wall and contains a stone sword key. We have not yet worked out the necessary association and therefore cannot interpret it yet. Next, we find 4 chests behind another illusion wall, 3 of which are closer together and seem to belong together. These chests contain a silver pickled fowl foot, the black hood, the candle tree wooden shield, and a nascent butterfly. We associate the silver pickled fowl foot with Godwyn the Tarnished. We associate the candle tree wooden shield with the prophecy of Godwyn's resurrection. In between is the black hood. It says, "Hood of lusterless black fabric that conceals its wearer's identity. In this world, there is very little that must necessarily be known." The black hood can therefore be associated with the mysterious hooded figure who is apparently behind the prophecy of Godwyn's resurrection. The nascent butterfly can be associated with Miquella, just as the other butterflies can be associated with his siblings. Interpreted, the objects tell the following story. A mysterious hooded figure prophesies Godwyn's resurrection and cooperates with Miquella. Finally, we find 2 chests containing the items Rejuvenating Boluses and Lost Ashes of War. According to Chapter 5, the Rejuvenating Boluses can be associated with our resurrection in Limgrave. The Lost Ashes of War say Empty ashes of war, devoid of any memories of battle, unable to apply any kind of affinity in their current state, but can be used by smithing master Hugh of the Round Table Hold to recreate other ashes. Thus does the copy pass into becoming the genuine article. Among other things, lost memories are mentioned here. Interpreted, the two objects tell the story of our resurrection without memories in Limgrave. The entire cave tells the story of the Knight of the Black Knives, Godwyn's survival, other characters in the background who prophesy his resurrection, and our actual resurrection without any memories of these events. Here, too, the story begins at the bottom of a waterfall and ends above it. Here, too, the waterfall symbolizes the spiritual cleansing, renewal, and transformation of Godwyn the Golden to Godwyn the Tarnished. The silver-pickled fowlfoot does not only stand for Godwyn the Tarnished. I believe there is even more to it than that. In Leonia, we find a silver-pickled fowlfoot in a camp with 3 enemies. Nothing else seems to be out of the ordinary nearby. Could there be a reference or allusion hidden there? After a while, I noticed that the 3 enemies are interestingly wearing foot soldier armor, and after attacking them, I noticed that they use very specific crackpots. These foot soldiers use the albinoric pot and throw it at us. It says, "The Knights of the Cuckoos do declare, behold thy defiled blood, unlike any humor that flows in our grand realm." Is this possibly an allusion to the fact that we also do not have ordinary blood and are not an ordinary being? We have already encountered beings associated with silver. According to its description, the Nightfolk from the Eternal Cities used to have silver blood. When we enter the Eternal City of Nokron, we unusually find rejuvenating boluses and a rune arc at the beginning. Immediately afterwards, we encounter mimic tears. The rejuvenating boluses do not seem to fit in with the surroundings and apparently serve as a reference to our resurrection in Limgrave. Following rune arc can be associated with Marika, and the mimic tears allude to Marika's plan that Godwyn should be reborn as a mimic tear. Godwyn had conspired with Rani and Marika, who had connections to the Nox and longed for the Age of the Stars. Godwyn willingly died in order to be reborn in the Chapel of Anticipation and then fight Radagon and the Golden Order. Godwyn is therefore the Lord of Night that the Nox hope for, and not only that. If Godwyn is the hoped-for Lord of Night, then it is quite conceivable that his new vessel should not be a normal vessel. If you think about it, it makes perfect sense that Godwyn was reborn as a silver tear. Godwyn is thus the Eternal City's attempt to create a lord in a powerful vessel. This is what it says in the Mimic Tear Ashes, which is also found in the Eternal City Nokron. Mimic tears are the result of an attempt by the Eternal City to forge a lord. The Silver Tear Husk also states, "The Silver Tear makes mockery of life, reborn again and again into imitation. Perhaps one day it will be reborn a lord." This means that we are not an ordinary tarnished. We, Godwyn, were reborn in a Silver Tear. This is consistent with the fact that we begin our journey with no specific origin or appearance. It could also explain why we are able to change our appearance in front of a mirror. At the latest, when we undergo rebirth with a larval tear and the help of Renala, it should be clear that we are not an ordinary human. In the larval tear through which we are reborn, it says, "Core of a creature of mimicry known as a silver tear, as much a substance as it is a living organism. Material required by the amber egg cradled by Renala, queen of the full moon, to birth people anew." In relation to our task of overthrowing the Golden Order and challenging Radagon, the Silver Tear Mask says the following: "Mask fashioned from the corpse of a formless silver tear, supported by its hardened shed husk. To imitate the imitator is a cunning play indeed." Reborn as a silver tear, Godwyn possesses a powerful vessel and remains undetected by the Golden Order, making him all the more capable of fighting them. Let's summarize. The number 4 is closely associated with references to Godwyn and the story of his survival. The gold pickled fowlfoot can be associated with Godwyn the Golden, and the silver pickled fowlfoot can be associated with Godwyn the Tarnished. Waterfalls have the symbolic meaning of cleansing, renewal, and transformation. As the hoped-for Lord of Night of the Nox, Godwyn was reborn in a formless silver tear.